The snow was falling harder than ever that night. Thick, silent, endless flakes blanketing the empty streets like a soft white curtain. Ethan stood outside the little cafe on 7th Avenue, his breath misting in the air, his fingers trembling around a single red rose he had bought hours ago. Every car that passed made his heart jolt with hope, only to die down again when it wasn't her. He checked his watch for what must have been the 20th time. 7:45 p.m., she was 45 minutes late. His dream date, the woman he had met online, the one who had made him feel alive again after years of loneliness, hadn't shown up. The cold bit into his skin, but it wasn't half as sharp as the sting of disappointment creeping into his chest. The city lights blurred through his tears, though he pretended they were just melting snowflakes. Behind the glass windows of the cafe, couples laughed, children drank hot chocolate, and the world moved on as if it didn't notice his heart cracking silently in the cold. Before we go deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of unexpected connections, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories like this one. Ethan had been a dreamer once, a painter, a believer, a man who thought love could fix anything. But years had changed him, losing his mother, watching his small art business crumble, and then getting stood up on a night like this. It felt like the universe's final test. He smiled bitterly, whispering to himself, "Maybe I was never meant for happy endings." He turned to leave, his shoes crunching over the snow, the rose wilting in his hand. But then he heard it, a soft, muffled sound that cut through the quiet like a fragile cry for help. He stopped, looked around, and then saw her. Across the street, near the park bench dusted in white, sat a woman. Her coat was thin, her hands bare, and she was holding a little girl wrapped in a pink blanket. The woman's shoulders shook as she cried quietly, her face buried in her child's hair. Ethan hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure if he should interfere, but something inside him, perhaps the same heart that refused to stop believing in people, pushed him forward. As he approached, he noticed the woman's shoes were soaked, her lips pale, and her eyes filled with the kind of pain only life's toughest storms can bring. She looked up, startled by his shadow, and quickly wiped her tears. Her voice was weak, almost apologetic, as if she had no right to be seen. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "We're fine. I just needed a minute." Ethan could see they weren't fine. The little girl was shivering, clutching her mother's coat. He bent slightly, lowering his voice. "You'll freeze out here. Please let me get you both something warm." She shook her head at first, embarrassed, but when the child coughed softly, her resolve broke. He guided them to the cafe, the same one where he'd been stood up moments earlier. The irony stung, but he didn't care anymore. Inside, the heat felt heavenly. He ordered hot chocolate for the girl and tea for the mother. She looked at the cup in her trembling hands for a long time before whispering, "Thank you." Her name was Grace. Her daughter's name was Lily. She had lost her job 2 months ago when the small restaurant she worked for shut down. Her landlord had given her until the end of the week to leave. Tonight, they had nowhere to go. She had tried calling a friend for help, but her phone had died, so she just walked, with her daughter in her arms, hoping for a miracle she didn't really believe in anymore. Ethan listened silently. Every word sank into him like ice, freezing the self-pity he had been drowning in just moments ago. His missed date suddenly didn't matter. The universe had sent someone to meet him tonight, just not the person he expected. He found himself smiling softly. "You said you were looking for a miracle," he said, his voice gentle. "Maybe tonight you found one." Grace's eyes welled up again. "I don't deserve a miracle," she whispered. "I just need to keep her safe." Ethan leaned back in his chair, feeling something stir deep in his chest, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He saw his mother's face in Grace's eyes, the same resilience, the same quiet strength. His mother had been a single parent too, working late nights, skipping meals so he could eat. She used to tell him, "Kindness always comes back, Ethan. Maybe not today, but someday." That night he realized what she meant. He called his landlord friend, who owned a few rental spaces around town. Within an hour he arranged a small vacant apartment, just for a few weeks until Grace could find work. He even offered to cover the first month's rent. Grace tried to refuse, her pride fighting against her desperation, but he smiled reassuringly. "You'd do the same if it were me," he said quietly. As he drove them to the apartment, the snowstorm grew heavier. The city seemed hushed, watching as if this moment, two strangers crossing paths by fate, was something sacred. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting on her mother's lap. Grace looked out the window, her eyes glistening. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked softly. Ethan didn't have a perfect answer. "Because I know what it feels like to wait for someone who never comes," he said. "And I don't want your little girl to ever feel that kind of loneliness." They reached the small apartment, a modest one-room space, but warm, with a working heater and a soft bed. Grace stood there in disbelief, her hands over her mouth, as tears streamed freely down her face. This is more than enough," she whispered. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel empty. He stayed long enough to help them settle, brought groceries from a nearby store, and left his number in case they needed anything. As he turned to go, Lily woke up and looked at him sleepily. "Are you my mommy's friend now?" she asked. He smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. I guess I am." That night, when Ethan went home, the rose he had bought was still in his coat pocket. Cold, wilted, forgotten, but it didn't feel like a symbol of rejection anymore. It felt like a reminder. Sometimes the love we dream of doesn't come from romance but from humanity, from being there when someone needs us the most. Days turned into weeks. Ethan visited Grace and Lily often, sometimes bringing food, sometimes just painting with the little girl. Slowly, laughter began to fill the small apartment. Grace found part-time work at a bakery nearby, her confidence returning piece by piece. Ethan even used his art skills to help the bakery design new signs, bringing more customers in. One evening, Grace came to the cafe where it all began, holding a small box. Inside was a simple handmade card with a painted rose and a note that read, "To the man who showed up when no one else did." Ethan looked up at her, and for a moment the world stood still. He realized that what he had been waiting for all along wasn't a date or a perfect romance. It was purpose. It was the chance to make someone's world a little brighter, the way his mother once did for him. Months later, on a sunny spring morning, Lily ran up to him in the park, her laughter echoing through the trees. Grace followed behind her, smiling. A real smile this time, full of light and gratitude. "You changed our lives, Ethan," she said quietly, "and I don't even know how to thank you." He shook his head gently. "You don't need to, you already have. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, not the kind you read in books, but it was real, honest, beautiful in its imperfection, and for Ethan that was enough. Because love, he learned, isn't always about who shows up for dinner. It's about who stays when the night gets cold. And sometimes, the date you're waiting for never arrives because life is waiting to introduce you to someone far more meaningful. A stranger whose broken heart mirrors your own, and whose healing becomes your shared story. As the snow melted that year, Ethan's art began to sell again. He painted that moment, the night of the storm, the woman crying in the snow, and the man offering her a rose, and titled it The Night She Arrived. It hung in the cafe where their story began, a silent reminder to everyone who passed by that miracles often wear the face of ordinary people. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below to let us know what part moved you the most. Your words help us continue sharing stories of kindness, love, and second chances. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe that some meetings are written by fate? The snow had brought them together, but it was kindness that kept their hearts warm. And that night, Ethan finally realized, sometimes the best dates aren't the ones we plan. They're the ones destiny plans for us.